The moment TLC stopped treating this as television and started treating it as a safety issue did not happen on screen, and viewers were never supposed to know it existed. One internal decision shifted everything. Cameras rolling 1 minute, panic. Behind closed doors the next, and the story fans thought they understood quietly broke apart. This was not about another blow-up scene or a loud family fight. It was about control slipping away at a place built on managing chaos. How does a couple go from ratings fuel to a liability so serious nobody dares explain it out loud? For years, Andrei, Castravet, and Elizabeth Potthast sat at the center of 90 Day Fiancé, delivering the conflict viewers argued about every week. Loud moments aired, calmer ones filled social feeds. And the machine kept moving. Behind the scenes, something else formed. Decisions stopped coming from producers chasing drama and started coming from people paid to reduce risk. When that line gets crossed, there is no path back to business as usual. Silence became the new rule, not a pause, a strategy. No statements, no denials, no dramatic exit. The absence spoke louder than any tell-all ever did. Stay with this, because the next piece explains why silence scared people more than any argument ever shown. The final warning did not involve ratings. It involved language networks almost never use, language tied to safety and potential law enforcement involvement. To understand why this hit so hard, you have to remember who Andrei and Elizabeth were on screen. Loud fights at the dinner table, family meetings turning into shouting matches, Andrei squaring up with her brothers like every argument was a final round, Elizabeth stuck in the middle, half defending him, half asking everyone to calm down. It was messy, exhausting, and somehow addictive. Fans argued nonstop about who was wrong, who pushed first, and who needed to chill. The show leaned into it. Episodes teased blow-ups. Clips went viral. Memes wrote themselves. Andrei played the blunt outsider who refused to bend. Elizabeth played the overwhelmed peacemaker who kept choosing love over peace. You knew what you were getting each time they appeared. Chaos with a familiar rhythm. It felt raw but controlled. Like the cameras always arrived one step before things went too far. And let's be honest, many viewers ate it up. Ratings stayed strong. Online chatter never slowed. The franchise needs couples like this to keep the engine running. Conflict pays the bills, but keep listening. Because the version you saw was the safest cut possible, here is the line nobody crossed on camera. What aired was a polished storm. What stayed off camera did not follow the same rules. Crew members were not watching from couches or comment sections. They were standing feet away, and according to insiders, the behavior they saw looked nothing like a storyline built for Sunday night television. The first signs of trouble did not arrive with sirens or shutdowns. They arrived quietly, buried inside routine paperwork and conversations nobody outside the production bubble ever hears. According to people close to the process, concerns about behavior started earlier than most fans would guess. Not explosive moments made for promos, but repeated friction that slowed shoots and changed the mood on set. Arguments ran long. Directions met resistance. Tension lingered after cameras cut. Reality television contracts are not loose promises. They spell out expectations in plain language. Show up on time. Follow direction. Keep the set workable for everyone involved. When those rules bend once, production adjusts. When they bend again, notes get written. When they bend again after that, problems stop feeling isolated. Insiders claim this pattern kept repeating with Andrei and Elizabeth across seasons of 90 Day Fiancé. No criminal claims, no dramatic confrontations with executives, just ongoing disruption that drained time and energy. Every delay costs money. Crews get paid whether scenes finish or not. Locations charged by the hour. Equipment stays rented. When filming stops midday, the bill keeps running. Sources say early shutdowns were treated as growing pains, the price of chasing raw television. But repetition changes perception. When stoppages happen again and again, numbers start stacking up in ways nobody can laugh off. And this matters more than you think. Because silence did not save money, it burned it. Internal estimates tied these disruptions to hundreds of thousands lost over silence. What started as manageable chaos slowly turned into a daily strain nobody wanted to admit. Conflict, once treated as content, began to eat into schedules. Scenes took longer to reset. Tempers stayed hot between takes. According to insiders, some crew members quietly asked to be moved off segments tied to Andrei and Elizabeth, not out of drama fatigue, but out of stress. Requests like that are rare. And when they stack up, people notice. Networks tolerate a lot in the name of ratings. Loud personalities get rewarded because they drive attention. Explosive behavior gets airtime because it keeps viewers watching. The psychology is simple. When conflict brings clicks and comments, the system trains itself to look the other way. Early warnings feel inconvenient. Fixes feel optional. People convince themselves the storm will burn out on its own. Production teams tried to contain it. Extra supervision, tighter schedules, shorter shooting windows. Each adjustment worked for a moment, then failed again. Filming halts became less shocking and more routine. When cameras stop, money leaks fast. Crews still get paid. Locations still charge. Days lost never come back. What once felt like the cost of doing business started feeling reckless. Empathy matters here. Crew members are not faceless extras. They show up to do a job and go home safe. Cast members are not villains for having strong personalities. Both things stay true at the same time. The problem grows when systems reward behavior without limits. Keep listening, because this is where the balance tipped and trust broke. Behind closed doors, confidence faded. Some executives began to wonder whether producers still had control, or whether the situation had outgrown everyone tasked with managing it. By the time footage reached the editing room, another kind of control took over. Editing is where reality TV finds its shape. Hours of raw footage shrink into neat storylines that make sense, feel dramatic, and stay watchable. This is normal. Scenes get trimmed, voices get softened. Moments lose their edges. According to people familiar with the process, some moments tied to Andrei and Elizabeth never stood a chance of airing. Editors allegedly saw behavior that went past what Sunday night television tolerates. Extended confrontations, tension that did not reset when cameras cut. Moments where the room felt unsafe rather than entertaining. Those clips stayed on hard drives. Not because of a cover-up, but because networks avoid airing material that invites lawsuits or questions about worker safety. The goal stays the same: protect the brand, protect the show. That editing choice shaped how fans saw everything on screen. Arguments looked mutual. Conflicts felt heated but contained. Elizabeth appeared overwhelmed but sympathetic. Andrei looked aggressive but manageable. As viewers, we judged what we saw. We picked sides, we debated intentions. What we did not see shaped those opinions just as much. This is the uncomfortable part. Fans are not wrong for reacting to what aired. The show trained them to, but edits act like filters. They remove the moments that change the story entirely. Sit with that for a second, because this is where perception quietly broke away from reality. Insiders claim editors were not only protecting the audience, they were protecting executives. When footage stays unaired, problems look smaller, risk feels distant, decisions get delayed. And that delay set the stage for something nobody in the editing bay could fix anymore. When human resources enters a reality show, the tone changes fast. This stops being about scenes and story flow and turns into documentation. According to insiders, HR began reviewing reports that had stacked up over time. Complaints, notes, emails, patterns, not opinions, records. Once those exist, networks stop improvising. Everything gets written down. Every conversation gets measured. Written warnings allegedly followed, not casual talks on set, but formal notices tied to contracts. Reality TV contracts sound simple on the surface, but they carry clear behavior standards: cooperation, safety, respect for production. Breaches do not need criminal acts to matter. Repeated disruption alone triggers consequences. When warnings arrive in writing, it signals preparation, not patience. Legal teams stepped in next. Lawyers do not ask how dramatic something looks on camera. They ask who gets hurt if it continues. Documented complaints raise alarms. Networks fear one thing more than bad press: liability. If a crew member claims unsafe working conditions and the network ignored records, the fallout spreads fast. That risk changes priorities overnight. Producer conversations gave way to legal language. Phrases shifted. Cooperation became compliance. Behavior became exposure. What once felt fixable began to feel dangerous. Insiders say this stage felt cold, but necessary. From a corporate view, delay no longer looked neutral. It looked reckless. This is the moment many insiders say the countdown started, because paperwork removes all deniability. Once HR and legal align, outcomes narrow, options disappear, pots close. And somewhere during this phase, something happened. On a shoot that insiders describe as crossing an internal red line. The breaking point did not arrive with shouting meant for television. It arrived mid-shoot, without warning, when filming stopped in real time and nobody argued about whether to keep rolling. According to insiders, producers halted everything. On the spot, crew stepped back, cast were separated, phones started buzzing up the chain. This was no longer a call made on set. Executives were looped in immediately. Details stayed tightly held. And for good reason. No arrests happened, no charges followed, nothing public exists to point at. What insiders describe instead is a moment where the usual fixes failed. No calming talk, no reset, no promise to smooth it out later. The situation crossed from difficult to unacceptable inside a system built to tolerate chaos. What matters is the response. Cameras went dark, schedules froze, people stopped debating story beats and started documenting risk. In environments like 90 Day Fiancé, silence after a halt speaks louder than any outburst. When a network chooses to stop production rather than push through, fear has entered the room. Crew members reportedly left unsettled. Producers lost authority. Executives saw numbers and exposure flashing at the same time. This was the emotional peak nobody ever saw on screen. Not explosive, controlled, heavy, stay locked in here. Because silence after a shutdown signals consequences nobody explains out loud. From that moment forward, nothing returned to normal. Filming did not quietly resume. Conversations shifted away from recovery and toward exit strategies. And when cameras shut off, the fallout kept moving in directions fans never witnessed. Once numbers entered the conversation, panic cooled into calculation. The rumored seven-figure shadow did not land as punishment or revenge. Insiders describe it as math. Accumulated damage tallied after months of disruption. Production losses came first. Aborted shoots waste paid hours. Crews stay on payroll. Locations charge regardless. Equipment rentals do not pause. One stop day bleeds into many more through rescheduling. Security costs followed. When tension rises, networks add protection. Quiet guards, extra oversight. All invisible on screen and expensive off it. Legal review expanded next. Lawyers billing by the hour reviewed footage. Reports, contracts, and risk exposure. HR audits. Pulled staff away from other projects. None of this creates content. All of it drains budgets. Then come missed opportunities. Sponsors hesitate around controversy. Future seasons adjust casting plans. Marketing teams reroute effort, according to insiders. These indirect losses mattered most. They stretch beyond one couple or one shoot. They touch the brand. When reputation takes a hit, recovery costs multiply. This is why the number feels heavy without needing shock tactics. It represents cumulative strain, not a single fine. Calm math beats dramatic headlines. The figure explains why patience ended. Keep listening, because money was not the final decision maker. The more permanent consequence sat quietly beside the balance sheet. It did not come with paperwork fans could see. It came as a rule change, internal, lasting, and nearly impossible to reverse once written down when the decision was made. Nothing aired to signal it, no press release, no farewell. Montage. No Where Are They Now segment. Viewers only notice absence. 1 week they were central, the next gone. Insiders describe it as deliberate, a quiet exit engineered to avoid drama and protect the brand. The network did not need a public fight. The network needed control. Behind the scenes, Andrei and Elizabeth were reportedly added to an internal exclusion list. Lifetime ban, insiders say, though the term is unofficial. The system ensures they cannot appear on any current or future programming affiliated with the network. Casting databases flag their names. Producers cannot schedule them. Even if a storyline could benefit, rules override desire. Absence became the message. Permanence became invisible. The effect is heavier than a public firing. A public exit sparks gossip, speculation, defense, or outrage. A silent one shuts the conversation down. It signals the brand comes first. Stars, storylines, even fan favorites step aside when liability outweighs profit. Insiders suggest this approach is rare and reserved for cases where risk cannot be contained in any other way. Fans may interpret disappearance as drama or personal choice. The reality, insiders insist, is entirely strategic. Every step from warnings to legal oversight to editing led here. Absence carries meaning, and the meaning is unmistakable. Behavior has limits, and crossing them closes doors permanently. And the silence you noticed on screen, according to insiders. It was not accidental, it was mutual, and it was strategic. Silence dominates this chapter, but it is not mystery, it is strategy. According to insiders, every party involved received careful legal guidance. Speaking publicly could have triggered claims. Open contracts or exposed raw footage, non-disclosure. Agreements layered protection on top. Silence becomes the safest option, not a sign of avoidance or guilt. For the network, silence limits exposure. Any statement risks being interpreted as admission of unsafe conditions or liability. For the cast, lawyers recommend quiet because even a defensive explanation could escalate into a public dispute. For crew members, speaking out might breach internal policies or inadvertently involve them in legal claims. Each side weighs risk against reward, and the conclusion is always the same. Less is more. This explains why fans only see fragments on screen. The conflicts that shaped seasons were filtered, controlled, and sometimes removed entirely. Viewers reacted to the story the network allowed them to see, while the full picture remained carefully contained. Understanding this does not excuse poor behavior or erase tension. It clarifies why the narrative feels incomplete. The implications stretch beyond Andrei and Elizabeth. Insiders suggest similar situations may exist elsewhere in reality programming. Quietly contained and managed, what you see on TV is just the tip of the iceberg, and the deeper patterns may never appear on screen. The shockwaves from the couple's exit didn't stop at one season. Insiders say the network revisited contracts across the entire franchise. Language around behavior, cooperation, and production interference was tightened. Zero-tolerance clauses became real. Not just words. Producers started flagging high conflict. Cast members earlier. Every interaction on set carried extra scrutiny. What once passed as creative chaos began to look like potential liability. Conflicts that previously earned screen time now triggered documentation. Cast who thrived on drama discovered their actions had consequences beyond the lens, according to insiders. The goal was prevention, not punishment. The network wanted to avoid repeating a scenario where explosive personalities escalated beyond control. This reshaping also changed how the franchise measured risk. Ratings alone could no longer justify disruption. Behind-the-scenes behavior mattered as much as on-screen chemistry. The franchise learned that viral moments could carry hidden costs, and internal discussions started emphasizing safety, crew well-being, and legal exposure alongside storytelling. Fans may never notice these changes because the work happens quietly. But insiders argue this period marked a turning point, a moment when the show confronted the limits of reality television itself. What had been tolerated for the sake of drama could now threaten careers and budgets, and the question hangs in the air for everyone watching. Has reality TV crossed its own line, trading spectacle for real risk? Watching the fallout, it's impossible not to ask tough questions. Who holds responsibility when conflict is packaged as entertainment? When networks reward explosive personalities with screen time and ratings, where does accountability begin? Insiders suggest that the behavior that drives fans to react also creates hidden costs: emotional, financial, and legal. Viewers are part of the loop. Applause, shares, and reactions reinforce what appears on screen. The same moments that make headlines for drama may mask stress, frustration, or even danger behind the camera. Understanding this doesn't take away the enjoyment, but it frames it differently. Ratings are a measure of attention, not safety. The network, in turn, operates under constant tension. They want captivating content, but must balance it against risk to crew, liability, and long-term reputation. Every decision from edits to contract enforcement reflects this delicate negotiation. The silence surrounding Andrei and Elizabeth is a symptom, not an anomaly. It's the result of layers of legal advice, internal protocols, and careful calculation designed to prevent escalation. Emotional stakes hit both ways. Fans feel shocked or betrayed. Crew members felt relief or fear. Executives calculated cost. Cast weighed silence against visibility. Every participant experiences consequences, even if the audience only sees fragments, and just when you think the drama has been contained. Insiders hint the next fracture in the franchise may run even deeper, exposing patterns that stretch beyond one couple or one season. By the time cameras were off and contracts were reviewed, the story had moved far beyond what fans saw on screen. Absences, warnings, and internal calculations replaced arguments and tears. What began as entertainment had quietly become a test of boundaries, of behavior, of responsibility, and of control. The silence that followed was not empty. It was filled with consequence. No arrests happened, no public lawsuits surfaced, yet the ripple effects touched everyone involved: crew, cast, producers, and executives alike. Learn that what looks like chaos on TV can hide far more serious stakes. Behind the lens, ratings and viral clips are fleeting. Legal exposure, operational loss, and reputational risk linger long after the episode ends. Andrei and Elizabeth's exit illustrates this clearly. Their absence is louder than any confrontation ever broadcast. It demonstrates that even the most compelling personalities are not beyond accountability when behavior threatens the system itself. Fans may debate motives or outcomes, but insiders stress the lesson is structural. Reality television depends on careful balance between spectacle and safety, drama and liability. The quiet power of decisions made behind closed doors is as striking as any fight aired on screen. And it leaves one question hanging: what hidden fractures might the franchise be quietly containing right now? Watch closely, because the next story we uncover could reveal a fracture even fans never suspected.